What is happening, y'all? This is Drake Allen with another episode of Cold Beers and Whitetails. We're on episode 4. I just want to thank everybody who is following, subscribing, and watching the videos. Thank you guys for watching in. Like I said, we are continuing to grow at a good rate, and I hope you guys are enjoying the archery content, man. It's been fun making, and the more and more I do this, the more and more comfortable I'm starting to feel at it. So continue to bear with me there in that regard. As you can tell, the setup's different. I told you that last video. I finally made it to Oklahoma. I'm here. Started working at my sporting goods job this week, so everything's going good there. Like I said, I'm doing an archery manager position at a sporting goods company called Shields, and everything's moving full tilt forward. At this point, the ball is rolling, y'all. But first things first. Got the cold beer, got the Diet Coors. Cheers, to everybody out there. Crack a cold one if you're watching, boys. Okay, as you guys can tell, this from the title, this is about my gear setup. Um, I've hinted in this, telling you guys stories about just from me killing deers or my shot process from the last video about what I materially use throughout my setup and how much it's changed and how I've adapted throughout the course of basically my whitetail evolution and my hunting career. But at this point, I'm fully mobile. I'm a saddle hunter. I'm going to go over all my gear I've used, but I want to start before I introduce all the gear that I use. I want to start with where I was at originally. I started off hunting out of basically a blind and essentially a tent, a camo tent, if you will. And no knock to people who do that. It's still, I mean, it's still a great way sometimes to be able just at least to get your hunting opportunities, depending on the setup of your situation, whether you're hunting a field edge or any of those things in particular. Sometimes you don't have a tree to get in because the way your stuff is brushed up, and sometimes there's just not that many trees where you guys are at, you know. And so that was my particular instance starting off, and so I hunted out of multiple blinds my first couple of years, and then I also had a tree climber. So, and if anybody who's hunting with a tree climber, you'll know that is a heavy pack in. I mean, you've got your climber that you sit on, you've got your climber you stand on, and both those you wear like a book bag going in. And if you've ever carried one, it'll break your back. It'll break your back like you're carrying a fat man's mama. I'm just telling you right now, it hurts. So you do that a couple different times before you start realizing, man, okay, I don't know how many more times I got that in me. And so I hunted, like I said, my first 2 years were out of a blind and carrying a tree climber. Then I moved on to trying to get a couple good tree stands. A muddy, and still tree stands are great. And I actually do still use tree stands in spots that I know are primary travel corridors and I want to access with quiet intentions. I'll leave those up and then I'll get there, like I said, with quiet access so I'm not climbing the tree. But I still have a couple muddy tree stands that I use with ladders that I wrap around the tree, and those can stay there year round. And I think that's how I'd say 90% of people who chase whitetail in America do hunt. It's good. It's a great way to set up. I think the issue I continued to run into, especially after trying to chase mature whitetail, was that sometimes I was in the wrong tree. It wasn't a matter of being around deer or feeling like, oh, I'm not seeing enough deer. I'd be around deer. I'd have deer all around me. But the mature deer that I was seeing would be down the way sometimes. And sometimes you need to make a play. So the next time you go out, you need to be out of that tree and into a different one. And so the only way to make that happen is to become mobile. Or, you know, and if you're going back to that muddy tree stand, you would have had to take that whole tree stand down, then go to your other tree that you think you need to be in, and then reset that up. And that's a lot of work, man. That's a lot of work. And these tree stands I'm talking to you about, the muddy tree stands with the climbing ladders that go all the way up, they're high dollar, man. I mean, my ladder, just we're talking money, like the ladder you would strap to a tree in that situation would easily be 110, 150 bucks. And then the tree stand itself would be another 150 bucks, you know, maybe 200 depending on what brand you use. A muddy stand is at least 200. And you know, if you want to buy one on the cheaper end, you can get 100. So now you're 200, $250 in, depending on what kind of brand you bought, like I said. And like I said, no knock. It's just I always joke around. I'm poor man's hunting. I can't afford to have 9 stands, like I just mentioned, littered across the property, which I've been on plenty of private farms. I've been on public lands where I've seen people have them up for years. I've seen where people, matter of fact, I just walked around my buddy's land where I've seen 2 or 3 stands that have been there that are dilapidated straps, have been there for so long the stands broke, and for certain nobody's using them. So there's your money out the window right there after the point of use. So once you're done using it, unless you take it down and maintain it and take care of it, you're done. I mean, you're done with it. And the reality of it is I'll call I may be stepping on toes here. I'll take a drink before I say this, but I'm going to step on some toes. If your goal is to try and kill mature whitetail, a lot of people are lazy out there. A lot of people are lazy, man. A lot of people aren't willing to do what it takes. And if you are willing to do what it takes, you start to realize the adjustments and adaptations that you need to make throughout the course of your journey chasing mature whitetail. And so I've gone to a full-blown saddle setup with climbing steps that I carry with me and a platform that I put on every single time that I hunt. You know, I still have main trees that I go to. And when I go to those trees, I still set up with everything. And then, but the point is, after I'm done with that hunt, it all comes down with me. And it sets on my back like a book bag. So I'm going to start off by talking about probably the most important piece of what I think, if I were to put, I'm going to list these in an order. And I'm going to talk about the most important piece, and then I'll go down. And again, all these things, I'm not committed to any brand too. When I tell you this, I'm just telling you about what gear I have. Financially, there's higher end of things here that you can purchase, and there's obviously lower end of things that you can purchase in regards to a budget. Do your research out there. I got buddies that have, you know, latitudes, and I particularly use the tethered gear that I'm getting ready to go over, which seems to be more of the high dollar. Again, I'm not loyal to any brand. It's just, you know, do what fits your budget, you know. And I help you guys out here in a little bit of this by showing you my pieces, but I'm going to dive right into it, man. So the first piece I want to show you guys is my saddle setup. It's just like a lineman's belt. Just like a lineman's belt, man. I wear that. I step right into that big circle, and I buckle it up just like a belt buckle. And it sits around me just like that right there. Now, in each pouch, I do have tethered cords that wrap around the trees that I connect to the bridge lock of this that hold up to at least 1,000 pounds on there. And so, I mean, even if you're a bigger fella, I mean, you're not going to get you're not going to get into anything that's going to be, what am I trying to say, unstable. I mean, you're going to have a lot of flexibility in being able to find the right cords. Now, if you don't want that big of a cord and you want a smaller cord, they even have those options within that tethered setup that you can get. And but man, this piece right here really changed my life deer hunting, man. It really did, just for me being able to be on the move and on the go, on the fly, and that's just like, I mean, like I said, that's my style. The second I started hitting it and finding it out, like, man, this is it. I haven't turned back, man. Again, you can get different brands. That's tethered. You know, you could get Latitude. You can go with a couple other, I don't know the other 2 brands off the top of my head. I was just looking at, but they're more inexpensive. I mean, you're not talking you're going to be out big time coins. So like I said, do your research there in that regard. That'll play into a big factor of your ability to be on the fly. The second one I want to talk about is the platform. Now, the platform I got, this is through Tethered as well. I'm both these products are Tethered products. This is the platform I use. I got the smaller platform. Now you can get the bigger one should you be a big-footed guy, and it would go out a little bit further. But you just wrap this basically ratchet strap that comes with it around it. Again, it holds up to at least, I think, 1,500 pounds. So, I mean, there ain't a big fella out there that's going to break this. I mean, I can't even imagine a big boy who is big jumping up and down, snapping that cord. Again, and the best part about that is, if you're righty, if you're lefty, all of this applies to you. You don't have to go get a different platform because, oh man, well, that, you know, if I'm right-handed, can I use that, you know? Yeah, you can use this on both sides of a tree, and it's ambidextrous. That's what I'm trying to say. It's ambidextrous, and it's a good piece to be able to find. And there's no size girth tree that it doesn't fit around. Matter of fact, the one compliment that I actually do want to talk about that is that those big deer stands, going back earlier, like a muddy tree stand or a tree stand that's got a big ladder going up it, you're actually subjected to having it be around a bigger white oak tree or bigger red oak tree. With this platform, you can find yourself in like a weeping willow, man. You can find yourself in all sorts of those trees that have off the main trunk branches that are smaller. And I mean, I started looking at trees so much differently when I hunted this way because before, like I said, I'm only looking at trees that are massively round that I can fit a big deer stand around. And with this, you can hunt in. I've even seen guys hunt in trees smaller than their core, like this. I mean, quite literally, not even bigger than their torso, all because they can get that platform in it. And the best part is, you don't have to go up but maybe 8 feet. Sometimes that may be your only option in a tree, and you can do that with this. Whereas if you had a regular deer stand, you're skipping by that tree. You're looking for a bigger tree. You're looking for one that doesn't have as many branches. Or you're in a blind. You've got to brush it into a brush side. You got to do all sorts of things there in that regard. I mean, it just opens the availability of your options up in ways that it makes your brain start thinking like you never would have when you look at a tree. Every tree is almost huntable to me, unless it's dead and don't have leaves on it. I mean, every tree is almost huntable. Cheers, boys. Cold beers. You really do. When you start hunting with this setup, you start looking at trees that you never knew you would be able to hunt out of, all because you know you got that option now. And so the third piece that I want to talk about is is my climbing sticks. I've got the I got four climbing sticks that are Hawk Helium that you take this cord and you wrap around a tree. Again, this also holds 1,000 pounds as well. So if you're a big fella, I keep on referencing big fellas because there's a lot of big fellas that like hunting deer and eating. But you wrap this around the tree, simple as that. Bam, it locks in, and you're good to climb. Now I've got three other ones here, but the best part about this is if you think that this is too short of a step for you, they make options that are 3-step. This is just a 2-step, so a 3-step would take you down even further. You know, I chose the 2-step just because I use an aider as well. I'll take a ratchet strap and I'll interlock them and I'll wrap it around that bottom step to help me get up, basically using it as a whole nother step as well. And to concise all of this down, I put that platform in my pack right here, fits just right in like a book bag, and then I wrap up those steps right here. I'll wrap both of them up so I carry them in just like a book bag with the steps hanging through here and my platform in here. And I'll walk in with my saddle already around my waist. So I mean, the one of the biggest things too, when I walked in the first time with this whole hunting setup, I didn't break a sweat. And that's huge too for deer because they have 10,000 receptors in their nose. So by the way, I mean, their nose are their eyes. So if you're going in not sweating, you're already ahead of the game for anybody who goes in breaking a sweat, because if you're hunting downwind, you're giving off scent like a son of a gun. So all that showering and spraying you did with the non-scent goes right out the window if you started sweating your rear end off on the way in. So, I mean, this just allowed the easiness of it for me to be more tactical, stealthy, more idealistic in regards to finding ambush spots as a killer, you know. And lastly, it's silent, man. I climbed a tree. This is no joke. I'm going to publish a video of this on a short tomorrow because I still have the video of it, and I'll put it out tomorrow morning. But I have a video of me climbing a tree, and there is a small. Of course, it's not a mature buck, so I also think this dude was an idiot. I call him an Alabama 11-pointer. He was just a spike, you know. He was 30 yards away from me at the time, and it was middle of November with a strong north breeze coming right off of this mountain, or I say mountain ridge, but a bluff, if you will. So the wind was in my favor, but the wind was so loud in a sense that I was able to climb with all four of those climbing steps, ratchet strap my platform around the tree, pull my bow up, nock an arrow while I maintained eye contact with this deer the whole time, while his head was laying down, sleeping. Never opened his eye, never peeked at once. And that too was another sign. I'm like, man, I'm never going back to carrying a climber or setting up a blind on the side of a field. Excuse me. Cheers. I I don't want to knock anybody's style of hunting. I'm just promoting my gear setup in the sense that if you are a guy who likes to hunt on the run, a run and gun type of situation, I have probably 10 cameras, actually probably about 12. I've got an issue with hunting cameras, 6 or 7 of them being cell phones and cell phone cameras. And this allows me too to be able to confidently hang a camera into place where I know I might be hunting next time, instead of having the camera too in the same place that my whole entire deer stand's ratcheted to, because I can't move my camera because my deer stands there. So why would I move my camera? So a lot of people are what I like to call married to their setups, and I'm not. And this allows me to be on the fly, on the go. Again, I'm not promoting Tethered. I think Tethered's a great brand. I could afford it at the time, and that's what I went with. Like I said, I have a brother who's got the Latitude set up. They're more inexpensive, less in price. But take a look at them, man. If that's what suits your needs too, great, man. And I hope I've been helpful with the whole setup in regards to maybe you're thinking about making a change your own self. Maybe you're tired of hanging the deer stand every year. Maybe you're tired of going to check your straps to see if they're dilapidated. Maybe you can't afford a brand new stand every year. Guys, that whole setup that I just showed you cost me no more than $800. I guarantee you, if you bought 2 deer stands with 2 ladders 2 years in a row, which is very common, you're already out over $800, and you're working harder than what you need to. And chances are you're not preparing yourself in a manner. I've met few guys that are willing to truly move that many deer stands. That's a lot of work. And if you are, which I have seen people do that, it's an operation. And what I mean by that is you've got 4 or 5 guys that are in on a hunting lease with you. I'm a solo hunter, so now I'm singing out to the solo hunters. This is more independent. If you were a solo hunter, now I've got the opportunity to hunt with a couple buddies this year, and I'm excited about that. But either way, I know that this is probably the route that they're going to go permanently as well as my brother that I mentioned, just because affordability and consistency in their approach. So you can take this and go from a public land to your lease to your private land and all be the same thing you're still hunting out of, guys. I hope I've been helpful to you guys. I'm probably not running this thing as long as I normally do, but I just want to thank everybody out there again for following, watching, subscribing, man. Again, appreciate you guys watching us as we grow. Next week, I'm probably going to have one of my buddies on. We're going to talk about scouting. We may go a little bit longer next week just because we've come across quite a few things that we can go in detail for probably too long about. But the reality of it is this is where we're going to find our spots. We're going to have ambush and kill points. So, I mean, we're probably going to be pretty thorough next week, So I appreciate you guys following. Cheers, boys. Cold Beers and Whitetails.